Master Sergeant Daniel "Danny" Torres sat on a weathered metal bench at the Riverside Avenue bus stop in downtown Sacramento. At 38, his lean frame bore the quiet strength of 15 years as an Army Ranger, though his faded jeans and worn leather jacket masked the scars of 3 combat deployments. The morning sun cast long shadows across the cracked sidewalk, where working-class commuters hurried past without a glance. This older part of the city, untouched by gentrification, was a hub for those who relied on public transit to navigate life's demands. Danny chose this route because it led straight to the VA Medical Center, where he had weekly counseling and monthly check-ins for PTSD and chronic pain. In his backpack, Danny carried essentials: appointment paperwork, a water bottle, and anxiety medication to manage crowded spaces. He checked his phone. 7:05 a.m. The 7:15 bus would get him to the VA on time, a small victory in a life where routine anchored him against the chaos of nightmares and flashbacks. Enlisting at 23 after college, Danny had thrived in the Rangers' elite world, leading reconnaissance missions in Afghanistan and Iraq. His calm under fire saved lives and earned him commendations he kept locked away, too painful to display. A mortar attack ended his career, killing his team's medic and leaving Danny with a traumatic brain injury that fractured his memory and focus. The transition to civilian life was brutal. Employers balked at his medical needs, and disability payments couldn't replace the purpose he'd lost. Dr. Sarah Kim, his VA counselor, was his lifeline. Their sessions tackled survivor's guilt and the challenge of finding meaning in a world that moved too fast. Today's appointment focused on managing public space anxiety, which was why Danny forced himself onto the bus instead of splurging on a rideshare. As he waited, Officer Tom Bradley cruised down Riverside in his patrol car. 8 years on the force had honed his instinct to clean the streets of anyone who looked out of place. Spotting Danny, hunched slightly staring ahead with what Bradley pegged as a 1,000-yard stare, he pulled over. Bradley stepped out, hand on his utility belt, radiating authority. "Move along, vagrant," he barked. "You're scaring customers. Loitering's not allowed." Danny looked up, confused but calm. "I'm waiting for the bus to my VA appointment," he said evenly. "I've got a right to be here." Bradley wasn't listening. He'd already sized Danny up as trouble, worn clothes, distant gaze, maybe a drug user or worse. "ID, now! Stand up, hands where I can see them." Danny moved deliberately, his Ranger instincts scanning for threats while trying to comply. He reached for his wallet, but Bradley's voice spiked. "Hands up! Don't move!" The contradictory commands echoed the chaos of combat, and Danny's heart rate climbed. He tried to de-escalate, using the steady tone that had once calmed panicked soldiers. "I'm getting my ID, sir. I'm a veteran heading to the VA." Bradley's adrenaline drowned out reason. Without warning, he drew his taser and fired. The electrodes struck Danny's chest, and 50,000 volts tore through him. He collapsed. Muscles seizing as pain unlike anything he'd felt in war consumed him. His body slammed onto the concrete, the impact splitting his lip. The burning agony was nothing compared to the helplessness, a sensation that ripped through his carefully built mental defenses, dragging him back to Afghanistan. Pinned down by enemy fire, watching Sergeant Martinez bleed out in his arms, Danny had been powerless then too. Now, sprawled on the sidewalk, he gasped for air, tasting blood as his tongue throbbed. Bystanders froze. A barista at a nearby coffee shop stopped mid-pour, her phone already recording. A delivery driver muttered, "He was just sitting there." But no one approached. Bradley's presence kept them at bay. Danny's breathing turned shallow, his pulse hammering as a panic attack took hold. The street faded, replaced by the thundering of his own heartbeat and memories of explosions. He tried to sit up to reclaim some control, but his body betrayed him, still twitching from the shock. Bradley stood over him, radio crackling as he called for backup. "Subdued a dangerous individual, possibly on drugs, acting erratic," he reported, his voice steady with conviction. Danny struggled to speak. "I'm a veteran," he gasped. "VA appointment. Paperwork in my bag." Bradley ignored him, ordering him to stay down or face another jolt. A woman in her 50s stepped forward, offering to help, but Bradley waved her off. "Stay back, ma'am. Scene's not secure." Sirens wailed closer, amplifying Danny's panic. The sound morphed into incoming artillery, and he began to dissociate, his mind retreating to a safer place. He tried again to explain, his service, his appointment, but the words came out jumbled. Bradley rifled through Danny's backpack, pulling out the VA paperwork, but dismissing it. "Could be fake," he muttered, doubling down on his narrative. 2. More patrol cars screeched to a halt, officers forming a semicircle around Danny. To them, he was what Bradley described, a threat, now twitching and incoherent, his PTSD symptoms mistaken for defiance. The situation spiraled. None of the officers recognized the signs of combat trauma. Then, a black SUV with government plates roared up, followed by 2 more. 6 men in dark suits emerged, moving with military precision. The lead, Special Agent Marcus Webb, flashed Pentagon credentials that made Bradley's face drain of color. "Master Sergeant Daniel Torres," Webb said, his voice cutting through the chaos, "is a decorated Army Ranger under Pentagon medical monitoring." He explained that Danny's medical alert device, issued to high-risk veterans, had triggered when his heart rate spiked during the tasing. The signal alerted VA staff and a Pentagon liaison, prompting the rapid response. Webb's tone was calm but unyielding. "You tased a veteran in a psychological crisis, officer. Federal databases identify him clearly. You should have checked." Bradley stammered. He looked dangerous, wouldn't comply. Webb shut him down. "You saw a threat where there was none. He's a ranger, not a vagrant." The Pentagon team took over, medics kneeling beside Danny with equipment tailored for combat trauma. They guided him through breathing exercises, stabilizing his panic attack with techniques Dr. Kim had taught him. Agent Webb documented the scene, collecting witness statements and Bradley's body camera footage, which would show the unprovoked attack. Bradley's confidence crumbled as he realized the weight of his mistake. The Pentagon's involvement meant federal scrutiny, potential charges for assault on a veteran and ADA violations. Danny, still shaky, was helped into a federal vehicle for transport to the VA. Dr. Kim arrived soon after, adjusting her schedule for a crisis session. The SAO tasing had reopened old wounds, layering new trauma onto Danny's fragile recovery. But the Pentagon's swift intervention, a system built to protect veterans from civilian overreach, gave him a flicker of hope. Agent Webb assured Danny that Bradley would face consequences. "We don't let veterans get treated like this," he said. The incident report would go to the Department of Justice, the VA Inspector General, and congressional oversight committees. Local news picked up the story, highlighting the Pentagon's response and sparking conversations about veterans' treatment in civilian spaces. For Danny, the federal agents' respect countered the humiliation of Bradley's assault. They reminded him that his military family hadn't forgotten him. As Danny rode to the VA, 3 hours late but supported, he felt a rare sense of security. The system, flawed as it was, had his back. Bradley's suspension was immediate, pending investigation. For Danny, the road to healing grew steeper, but the Pentagon's intervention sent a message. Veterans deserved protection, not persecution. In a society quick to misunderstand their struggles, someone was still fighting for them.